90% of the world's millionaires are created through real estate. Think about that, guys. That's a big number. 90% of the world's millionaires are rich through real estate. So how can you and I, the average person that doesn't have a lot of money, the average Joe, if you will, how can you and I create our wealth through real estate? I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys that here in a minute. So I'm sure you guys have probably heard, or you've probably seen a lot of videos from Gary Vaynerchuk, maybe Grant Cardone on, hey, stay away from single family residence. It's a horrible investment. It's a liability, if you will. I want to debunk that. Better yet, not debunk, correct exactly what they mean by that, because it is true. There is certain truth to that theory. A single family residence can be a liability if you don't know what you're doing. But if you have a real estate professional that can guide you the correct way, well, guess what? We can help you build wealth through real estate. I've done this many times. I'm not preaching something that I haven't done. Everything that I put on this camera, everything that I do with these videos, guys, I've done it. I've helped people do this. This is a legitimate formula to how I help my clients build their wealth through real estate. A lot of Grant Cardone's videos, you know, what do they say is stay away from single family residence, buy multi-unit properties. And guys, multi-units is definitely the way to go. There's no doubt about it. Why? Because if you have 1 to 4 residential units or more than that, you have passive income. That's how you create your wealth through real estate, right? You need that cash flow. Cash flow is what? King. That's what everybody says. That's what everybody's preaching. But how do you create that cash flow? Obviously, you and I might not have a lot of money to start off with a 4-unit property or some apartments. We need to obviously grow to that, right? So how do you grow to that? I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys some scenarios. As you guys can see, I already pre-drew this because, again, I say this in all my videos. I'm not the best artist, so I had to take my time doing this. How to create passive income, how to build your wealth. I'm gonna show you this now, and I'm gonna show you why a single family residence is the way to start, okay? If you're looking to create wealth, you start with a single family residence, and this is how you're gonna do it. I use Bill and Bob in a lot of my videos, okay? They're probably a little bit more famous than me now, but Bill, we're gonna go ahead and say Bill is an average worker, okay? Bill is a very humble person, but on the other side, we got Bob. Bob is not so humble. Bob wants to show off. Bob wants to impress people he doesn't like, okay? So let's go ahead and say Bill and Bob, they're both my clients. I'm gonna advise Bill, hey Bill, I want you to buy a single family residence because obviously we don't have a lot of money, a lot of capital. Leverage is king. If we don't have a lot of leverage, how can we own up to that? How can we grow into that? Bill, I need you to buy a single family residence, okay? So this is what they do. Buys a house between the price range of $100,000 to $250,000. Now I'm gonna tell you guys something. This does not pertain to every single city, because those of you in LA County, San Francisco watching this are like, what the hell? That's right, you can get something from $100,000 to $250,000 here in Bakersfield, which is why I call this the Golden City. It's the Golden City for me for a reason. Let's say Bob didn't listen to my advice. He wants to go big. He wants to go and purchase something that he can't really afford because he wants to impress people he doesn't like. Bill here gets a modest little house, maybe a 3-bedroom, a 2-bathroom, you know, something again within the price range of $100,000 to $250,000. He ends up buying his property for $180,000. That's a very fair price here in Bakersfield, California. This price range is actually like the biggest percentage with the biggest pool of buyers here in Bakersfield, California, because it's a great price range. Again, let's say Bill bought his home for $180,000, modest 3-bedroom, 2-bath. But on the other hand, we got Bob here who decided to go huge. He bought a 2-story, got some French doors, maybe got a 3-car garage, if you can see that as well. Got the big old roof, maybe some solar panels, might have a hot wife and a Ferrari in the driveway. He bought his house for $500,000. I see this all the time. So when Grant Cardone, Gary Vaynerchuk, or any of the other influencers you watch telling you don't buy single family residence, this is what they're referring to. They're referring to this. Stay away from this because that's a liability. How much do you think that your property is gonna go up in value for something that costs $500,000? Do you think there's a lot of equity to probably be made within here from 2 years? Probably not. It's common sense. But we got Bill on the other hand who decided to go modest, and he decided to humble and get something for $180,000. How much equity do you think, how much value do you think Bill's gonna get in 2 years? he's probably gonna get some equity, right? Happens all the time. So how do you buy a single family residence? 100 to 250 is good. 300 and up, I wouldn't say it's bad, but it's not a smart idea, and it's definitely a lot riskier. One of the things that I am gonna tell you is, this is what it costs, okay? For first-time home buyers. FHA, it's a great program, okay? Look it up, Google it. I'm not gonna get into detail with what type of loan this is, but I recommend this for first-time buyers. Why? Because the down payment is so freaking cheap. 3.5% of $180,000 house, $6,300 for your down payment. But Anthony, oh my God, I heard you gotta pay closing costs. Yes, depends on your agent. If you have a good agent, they can negotiate so that the sellers pay for that extra $5,400. If your agent can negotiate most of that, $11,700. This is your worst case scenario. That's not a lot of money. It is a lot, don't get me wrong, but when you're investing in yourself and you're investing in wealth and creating wealth, that's not a lot of money. Now let's go ahead and go back to Bob over here. Bob bought his house for $500,000. Unfortunately, FHA loan limits are up to $330,000, okay? Meaning Bob can't qualify for an FHA loan. He can't. He has to probably go conventional. Oftentimes they make him put 5% upwards depending on the credit. So let's just say Bob wants to go conventional. This is what Bob is looking at. Conventional, 5% times 500,000. He's looking at $25,000 for down payment. And guys, I'm not even talking about closing costs. I didn't even bother writing the closing costs down because you already automatically know that this is not the best investment. Why is this something that people are trying to steer you away from? Because it is a liability. It is something that you're gonna have to constantly worry about. Am I paying my mortgage? Is the equity going up? When you want to sell this, you got to pay commissions, you got to pay all kinds of stuff. This happens very often, guys. I've done this multiple freaking times. I cannot tell you guys how many times I've done this for clients, but I want to give you guys a scenario here too. Let's go ahead and say Bill here buys his home, $180,000 initial investment. He has me as an agent. He buys his property, $7,000 total with inspections, appraisal, everything is included. He bought his home for $180,000. 2 years later, Bill calls me. Bill, hey Anthony, I'm ready to sell my property. I want to make my first real investment. Let's say Bill's property, theoretically speaking, and I'm gonna give you guys a real equation actually. I want this to be legit. I had a client, and I use this woman as an example for every single one of my clients. When she purchased her property with me, she purchased it at $124,000. She called me 2 years later, Anthony, I'm ready to sell my home. We were able to get her $169,000 for her property, minus commissions, minus escrow fees, minus everything. She walked away with a pretty good chunk of change because that does not include what she paid down. She contacted me when she owed $105,000 on the property. So you do the math, from $105,000 to $169,000, that's a huge chunk of change. Guess what that is, guys? Leverage, capital, wealth. And I apologize if I'm screaming here, but I love this because I've done it so many times and I want to teach you guys a proper way. So when you're hearing people say, stay away from single family residence, don't buy it, bullshit. You got to know what they're referring to. So the correction is stay away from single family residence like Bob over here. Don't try to impress people you don't like. Don't buy a 2-story house if you know you can't afford it. Buy something modest. Let it increase in equity. Let it increase in value. Pay it off as much as you can. And guess what? You're not throwing your freaking money away renting an apartment like everybody's telling you to do. Look at this, 105, and this is a real, and you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and post up some real numbers here, okay? I want you guys to see that this is legit. I've done it many times. A lot of my clients love me for this. So what do you want to do with this money? Whatever that initial $50,000 you're left with is up to you. Do you want to buy another freaking house like Bill? Do you want to buy a 4-unit property? Do you want to buy a triplex? Do you want to? That's up to you. But guess what, baby? You just got the capital. You just created the wealth. This is how you hack the real estate system. Don't stress yourself about saving hundreds of thousands of dollars if you don't have that type of money for apartments. This is how you and I can create our wealth through real estate. Okay, this is one of the ways. You have to take a step back sometimes to take 2 steps forward. This is what you got to do. All right. So guys, stay tuned for the next video. I know a lot of people are probably going to have something to say. I know people are going to throw their 2 cents in. This has worked for me. This worked for my clients, and I want it to work for you guys. With that being said, stay tuned for the next one. I want to keep making these videos for you guys, so please make sure to comment. If there's anything that you guys want me to cover, comment below, send me a private message, and I'll be more than happy to entertain these videos for you guys, okay? Until next time.